The marriage for 10 wonderful years. We were a happy family with 2 wonderful children. Like any marriage in the world, we had our highs and lows. We navigated hard times together, such as financial struggles and long periods without vacations. We both worked tirelessly, but through it all, we loved and cherished one another, remaining the best of friends. We had shared plans and dreams we envisioned growing old together. Now, we both have great, lucrative careers, allowing us to afford anything we desire and travel wherever we wish. All those difficult times and feelings of want are far in the past. I adored my beautiful wife and treasured every moment we shared, every memory, every kiss, every hug, her smile, and the way she gazed at me. I always felt blessed to have such an amazing partner by my side. I believe she loved me too, until something fractured between us. Our children are the greatest thing that ever happened to our family. I love them more than life itself, and my wife feels the same. They know this, they feel that they have the best parents in the entire universe. The story: in February 2022, a full-scale invasion began in our country. We were terrified and stressed as our city was under relentless rocket fire. So we made a swift decision to relocate to the country's western region for our safety. A few weeks later, as the circumstances grew more dire, a good friend of my wife's informed us that an apartment was available for them in Europe, where they could stay and wait for the conflict to end. Under such extreme pressure, we had little time to deliberate. I purchased bus tickets, and my wife, children, and mother-in-law evacuated to Europe. Unfortunately, due to martial law, men in our country were forbidden from leaving the country, so I was compelled to remain at home. A month later, I went back to my city to be with my parents, who had refused to leave their home, insisting we prioritize the children's safety during those intense days. I experienced a constant sense of fatigue, dizziness, and exhaustion. I consulted with numerous doctors, but they all attributed it to the war, saying everyone was tired and exhausted. They reasoned that my family's absence was causing me stress and loneliness. Their advice was to take some pills, try to relax, and carry on with life. They were correct to a degree, but everything changed on that frightening day in August 2022 when I received a diagnosis of thyroid cancer. It was discovered incidentally during yet another doctor's appointment. I was shattered and fell into a deep depression. My world came to a halt. I hit rock bottom, surrounded by darkness and emptiness. I wept frequently, something I've rarely done in my life. My wife cried with me over the phone. Everyone was in shock and disbelief. Nevertheless, thanks to my wife's encouragement and the support of my family, I mustered the strength from within and began preparing for surgery. My specific case required the complete removal of the thyroid gland. The treatment was successful, but it necessitated a fundamental change in my lifestyle: less stress, more rest, and a healthier diet. The initial months following the surgery in late August 2022 were incredibly difficult. Firstly, the painful incision on my neck made it almost impossible to eat or swallow. Secondly, my depression was waiting just around the corner to claim me. The drastic hormonal shifts and profound loneliness left me feeling depressed and vulnerable. I felt like I was losing my footing, and my longing for my wife and children intensified. You might wonder if they could have visited me. Yes, they could have. My wife did come in September 2022 and stayed for a few weeks to look after me. But once she departed, I felt utterly broken. Is this my life now? The war, the distance between us, how many more blows could I endure? Eventually, I pulled myself together and started therapy. It was challenging at first, but I am now starting to get back to my old self. While there is still much to work on, I can smile again and even envision a future with my beautiful family. However, in December 2022, everything began to unravel. My family is currently living in a type of social housing with other refugees from our country, mostly women and children. She knows many of them well, as they are from her hometown and connected through the same people who arranged her stay. As winter approached, my wife grew emotionally distant and cold. She became close with many of the young women there, and they started going out frequently to bars, cafes, and restaurants. I know she has a strained relationship with her mother. They often argue over the smallest things. Her mother disapproved of her parting. At times, her mother was overbearing and critical, insisting she should stay home with the children. Although her mother had a point, I didn't want my wife to feel trapped and always tried to defend her. She is a very emotional person, and I assumed her mental state was affected by the tense atmosphere at home, which is why she needed to get out occasionally. Simultaneously, I started to feel that my wife seemed to no longer care about me. She asked about my well-being less and less and rarely reciprocated when I told her I loved her. When I couldn't bear it anymore, I began asking direct questions like, is everything all right with us? Do you still care about me? And do you miss me? Her answers were always affirmative. Of course I miss you, I care for you, everything is fine, I'm just tired. At the same time, she told me I had become overly anxious and that she was too exhausted to meet the demands of both me and her mother. But all I was asking for was her attention, for which she always had an excuse. I was scared this wasn't the wife I knew. I constantly felt guilty for being an alarmist and adding to the pressure she was under, so I backed off. The affair a few months later, my oncologist informed me of an opportunity to obtain documents that would permit me to leave the country. This is it, I thought. At last, I could see my family. I could kiss my wife, hug my kids, take them to the coast. I could do everything. But the closer I got to having my documents ready, the more my wife withdrew from me. No matter what I asked, she insisted everything was fine and that I had nothing to worry about. Finally, in May 2023, I arrived. My children were crying and smiling with joy, and so was my wife, but something felt off. She hadn't even prepared a meal. The house was a mess, with dirty dishes piled up. Our first night together, and there was a complete lack of physical affection. It was baffling. We hadn't seen each other in nearly a year. Those 3 weeks in September 2022 hardly counted, and she had no desire for intimacy. I tried to initiate something, but she claimed she was tired and just wanted to sleep. A week went by, and we were intimate only once. There were no kisses, no holding hands, no hugs. I sat her down for a talk, asking if everything was truly okay between us. Her response, everything is fine, honey. I just waited for so long that my sex drive has diminished. It's not about you, we are fine. I'm just tired and need some space. My suspicions grew exponentially. Yes, we'd had difficult periods in our marriage where fatigue limited our intimacy to a few times a month, but a whole year apart and she needed space. A few days later, I glimpsed a message from an unknown contact on her phone, but I couldn't read it before the screen locked. She told me it was one of her new bosses. I was uneasy, and the next day, I saw that this new boss had liked her photos on social media. I immediately initiated another conversation about her feelings and this man. She confessed that she was unsure of her feelings for me and that the man was just a friend. I was destroyed, but I struggled to remain composed. I understood we had been apart for a long time and that it was difficult for both of us, so I decided to give her the time and space she asked for, even though I hated the idea. I was on edge the entire time, but as planned, I decided to take the family to the coast for a relaxing trip. We spent a wonderful week together. We talked a lot, drank, were intimate, and kissed. Everything seemed to be back to normal. Then came a typical girls' night out. I tried to sleep but couldn't. I opened his social media page, and there it was. He had checked in at the same venue where my wife and her friends were partying. I went to her laptop. We never had secrets, so my fingerprint was registered. Opened a few messaging apps and discovered it all. Explicit photos, sexting, and messages of I love you and I miss us with the man from her so-called boss company. I collapsed, my heart shattered. I fled the apartment and confronted her later that night. When she saw my eyes, she knew that I knew. It was excruciatingly painful. She admitted to it, but only once she was caught, believing she had deleted all the evidence. Their relationship had been going on for several months while I was arranging my travel documents. She was living a double life. One spent a few more weeks there with her and my kids. I was in such a state of shock that I tried to place all the blame on myself, searching for any rational explanation. We slept in the same bed and were intimate during that time as I desperately tried to win her back, but she was as cold as stone. After returning to my home country, I tried to analyze the situation and have conversations with her, but she simply requested more time to think. I twice suggested we try marriage counseling, but she ignored the suggestion as if I hadn't spoken. It was her choice, her decision to destroy everything. I have lost her, and a part of myself, forever. Her betrayal came at a time when I was fighting cancer and needed her support the most. I am heartbroken and utterly destroyed, feeling like a worthless and wretched person. She attempted to blame me for her infidelity, but I confronted her and told her to stop. Why on earth did she never talk to me about her feelings? I was completely blindsided. I thought we were finally happy and could relax after pursuing our dreams for so many years. If she had ever told me she was unhappy, I would have done anything to fix it, or at least tried. But she remained completely silent. I know things like this don't happen overnight. I just can't understand why she never openly communicated her feelings and needs to me. Last summer, I received a handwritten letter from her expressing how much she loved and missed me, counting the days until we could be together. Every night, I read through our old text messages, and I find it unbelievable that it was all a deception. I am now making a concerted effort to begin healing, but every time I see her, I'm haunted by images of those repulsive messages between them, the photos she never sent to me, and the words of love she was saying to him and me simultaneously every single day of her affair. I cannot fathom how someone who, just 6 months prior, promised to get through this nightmare with me could betray me so profoundly. She refuses to even discuss the reasons why or how it happened. She shows no remorse. My only communication now is with my brilliant children, and I am considering filing for divorce soon. I'm just so afraid they might think that their daddy abandoned them and wrecked our family. The pain of her betrayal is excruciating, as are the fears about my cancer, which could return if I give up. Thank you for listening to my entire story. I am trying to remain strong for my children and for myself, and not let cancer defeat me again.